Welcome to another episode of the THWIP. This episode is being recorded on January 12th, 2023, and by now I have 3 episodes out. I have my introduction, I have my reaction/breakdown of the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer, and then I have my MCU rumors and speculation episode, so make sure to check those out, whether it's on my YouTube channel, THWIP Media, or on Spotify at THWIP Media and Apple Podcasts. And so today's episode is going to be about Nate Moore's recent comments on certain plans within Marvel Studios, like directions they're going in, characters they want to introduce, and teasing what's to come. So I'm going to be going over those, and it's going to be pretty interesting because what he has kind of teased sounds fun, and it's something to look forward to because you'll see it's pushing the envelope for the character catalog. So let's get into it. So the source for this that I found was on the direct.com, but it was from a podcast from Deadline called the Crew Call podcast. They had producer Nate Moore, who works at Marvel Studios, for an interview, and he was asked about a few things about the MCU. I'll just mention the properties regarding what he talked about, but then I'll get into the article itself. So the first thing he talked about was Harry Styles' MCU future as Eros from the Eternals. He also talked about certain X-Men characters for their reboot in the MCU. And then he talked about Blue Marvel debuting in the MCU. So starting off with the Harry Styles story. So Harry Styles played Eros, or Star Fox, in Eternals. He was in the post-credit scene along with Pip the Troll, who was played by Patton Oswalt. And they do mention that Eros is the brother of Thanos, who he was in the comics, and he arrives to find Druig, Makari, and Thena on the ship from the Eternals. So he offers his help to find the missing Eternals that Thena, Druig, and Makari are going to look for. So that's how the post-credit scene plays out. So Nate Moore commented on if Harry Styles will return at any point, and he just said, and this is a quote, "No, we certainly didn't cast Harry for a tag. I mean, again, a character that maybe I have too much affection for, because he's had some problematic runs in publishing, but..." And then he goes on to explain that Chloe Zhao, who directed the Eternals, was responsible for bringing in Harry Styles to that character. And then the interviewer just said that they brought up Eternals because that's one that Nate Moore produced. And then he goes on talking about how Chloe Zhao was a huge Harry Styles fan and always pitched Eros to appear in the movie and Harry Styles to play him. So it was always going to be Harry Styles and Eros from the beginning for Chloe Zhao. And Nate Moore kind of questioned that, but he accepted it. And he then reassured that there were more stories to be told with Eros, and said that he has a really interesting connection with Thanos because he is Thanos' brother. He's the Prince of Titan, which is the planet where Eros and Thanos are from. We see it in Avengers Infinity War, at least a ruined version of it. And Moore also revealed that there's no limit to how good Star Fox will be in his return. And then he goes on to say, "But there are more stories to be told with that character. He's fascinating. He has a really interesting connection with Thanos. They're half-brothers and share the same father. He has an interesting power set. He's a complicated character, but a really fun character. And I think having met Harry Styles, he is as charming as you want him to be. And I think there's no limit to how good that character is going to be once we get to bring him back. So it is clear that they do plan on bringing him back at some point, whether it's in Eternals 2 or if he ends up showing up in the Marvels, because that's supposed to take place in space somewhere. I'm not really sure where else he has a possibility of appearing. But yeah, so Eternals 2 sounds like the most, I guess, obvious place where he'd show up next, but we'll see. So in a past interview, Harry Styles was asked about the role, and he said he doesn't imagine he'd do a movie for a while, but he joked about if Eternals was it for that character, like it was like a throwaway thing, kind of similar to how, and we don't know for sure if they're still developing this character, but Michael Mando's Scorpion being a tease in Spider-Man Homecoming. We see Mac Gargan in the ferry scene and in the post-credit scene kind of setting him up to be the Scorpion and hunting down Spider-Man as revenge for scarring him. And that post-credit scene has gone nowhere so far. So he thought it would be funny to say like it's a throwaway kind of like that. So moving on, Harry Styles admitted that he thinks there will be a time again when he'll crave to return to that character, but he's mostly focused on his music career at this point. So he's available. He wants to revisit the character at some point, but we just don't know when. And even Kevin Feige has teased that Styles will return at some point, and it's very exciting where his character will go. So when will he return? We don't really know for sure. Again, I mentioned Eternals 2. Maybe they're developing a Disney Plus series with the Eternals like offshoot, and I'm just reading this off the direct.com. They're saying that a past rumor revealed that a solo Disney Plus project could be in the cards for Star Fox. It remains to be seen if it will come to fruition. I think that would be an interesting way to continue at least some of the Eternals storylines. In my opinion, the movie felt a bit rushed considering the amount of characters that were in it and the fact that we had never seen them or heard of them before. I guess only people who read the comics would have known who they were, but in that 2-hour window around what it was, I can't remember the exact runtime, but I feel like it didn't give us enough time to fully delve into those characters and appreciate that entire cast. Even though they are good, like I really liked Lauren Ridloff as Makari. I like Gemma Chan as Cersei, Don Lee as Gilgamesh, Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo, and then Barry Keoghan as Druig. So I hope I pronounced that right. But yeah, so seeing certain Eternals show up in a Disney Plus project where you give them more time, more episodes to explore their characters, make us connect with them more. I think that would be a good way to continue their story, and then have them come together for a Eternals 2 movie, which we assume is in development. Like it's obvious Nate Moore is teasing, and then Kevin Feige is also teased that those characters are returning at some point. So that'll be interesting to see. Now, Moore also talked about X-Men characters for the MCU's reboot. These are characters that Disney acquired through the Fox acquisition, or 20th Century Fox. The film rights to the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and a few other characters that were owned by Fox are now back at Disney, and Marvel is looking how to incorporate them in the future slate. And he talked about two characters specifically, Storm and Bishop, who are two essential characters to the X-Men team over the years. We know Fantastic Four is in development. We know it's coming in Phase 6 as of now. And we have seen mutants appearing in the MCU at this point. Like Miss Marvel was revealed to be a mutant at the end of Season 1 of her show. Then we had Ursa Major in Black Widow, which was a cameo. According to the actor, that was the character he was playing. He was just in a Russian prison with Red Guardian in a scene, and they were arm wrestling. But yeah, apparently he was Ursa Major. And then, of course, we had Namor in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I really like his character. I can't wait to see him return. But those are the mutants that we've seen so far. And then there was a tease in She-Hulk Attorney at Law about a bar fight somewhere with claws. So we assume Wolverine exists in this universe. We just haven't seen him yet. And yeah, so Namor talked about Bishop and Storm. We don't know when more X-Men characters are going to be introduced. In my last video with the MCU rumors and speculation, there was a rumor that the mutant Songbird would be in Thunderbolts. So that's another mutant coming into it. It seems like they're introducing them very slowly, and then they'll just introduce like the big ones later. But yeah, so Namor was asked about black superhero stories he'd like to see in the MCU, because we've done Black Panther, so that was huge. And he said there's no secret the X-Men are coming home, and Storm and Bishop are two of the greatest characters in that franchise. He went on to say he would certainly pitch ideas all day of those two characters, so he's obviously very invested in those characters. I do trust him with it. Like, he's done amazing work in the MCU. He's one of the best parts of that studio, and to see him kind of develop those characters in a way that he's passionate about, he knows what he's doing. I think it's gonna be really cool to see at some point. So he was also asked about if there's any directors for the X-Men films, and he said no, we're early days. So they haven't really fully I guess talked about the X-Men. I'm sure they've kind of like thrown it in then and there, like randomly, like, what if this connects to the X-Men? What if we introduce this character here so it introduces more later on? But yeah, I think they're taking their time. They're focusing on the multiverse aspects of the MCU right now. People have been theorizing online that the next saga will be the Mutant Saga, which I think makes sense. By then it will be Phase 7, will be the start of the next one. So I think if they do it that way, that is a fitting continuation to the MCU. You have basically all the Fox characters could be introduced at that point, and then tell some amazing stories with them. And then, in addition to talking about the X-Men characters, he wanted to give love to Monica Rambeau, who is also a black superhero. He said Teyonah Parris does a fantastic job in the Marvels. She was introduced in WandaVision, and he says she's a great character from publishing who's been around again for decades. And it's true, she's been around for a long time, and we're just getting to see her now in the Marvels. Honestly, I'm really excited to see her become Photon in the Marvels. I don't know too much about the character, but I'm very interested to see her dynamic with Carol, considering that they kind of have some tension between them. I'm interested to see how that plays out. And then with Storm, obviously we had Halle Berry play her in the Bryan Singer films. We also had Alexandria Shipp play her in X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. Because Namor is so passionate about these characters, I do have faith that he'll cast another amazing actress. We've seen Janelle Monáe want to play Storm. Other X-Men characters, like we've seen Keke Palmer want to play Rogue, who actually looks pretty good in that role. Her Halloween costume in 2022 was Rogue, and she actually looked really good. It's like it resembled the 90s animated series look for Rogue. It looked really good. I doubt they'll go exactly that way in the design for the movies, but I think she'd be cool in that role. She's got the wit for Rogue. She's got the charisma. So yeah, I'd like to see some more mutants appear like that. And Bishop is interesting to introduce because he's kind of like Cable in a way. We saw Cable in Deadpool 2, who Josh Brolin played. I think he did a great job with that character. I hope he plays him again in Deadpool 3 or at some other time in the MCU. Bishop's interesting because he time travels. He's been an essential character to the X-Men roster over the last few decades, so I'm excited to see him too. I don't know too much about his character other than that he can time travel, he's from the future, and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's all Nate Moore said about the X-Men, specifically Storm and Bishop. And then he went on to talk about Blue Marvel, who is like a Superman character for the Marvel Universe, similar to how Sentry's kind of like Superman. But in a video interview, Teyonah Parris said that she is aware of Monica Rambeau's comic relationship with Blue Marvel, and she's kind of hinting at that. She wants that in the MCU. Maybe he does appear in the Marvels and we just don't know it. It would make sense because his name's Blue Marvel. You have Captain Marvel, you have Miss Marvel. So yeah, if you introduce him in that, whether it's actually in the movie or if it's just in the post-credit scene, I think that would be pretty interesting. Nate Moore commented on Blue Marvel's introduction, or teasing his introduction, saying he's a fantastic character who's almost Superman in strength and powers. He then went on to say that in the comics, he's a black superhero operating in the powder keg of the civil rights era. His quote exactly says, "But in a fight, his mask is ripped off and people realize he's black. And John F. Kennedy actually asks him to go back undercover because he's scaring people, because he's gonna upset the power keg of the civil rights era." And he's since been reintroduced into Marvel Publishing as a really smart, almost Captain Nemo character. Like, he takes great space voyages and he goes on these grand adventures, but he's a great character. But there's so many. I mean, there really are a lot. There's a lot of exciting stuff that's gonna come. So he does kind of tease that they are talking about it in a way. He says a lot of exciting stuff is gonna come. So yeah, so I'm assuming we'll see Blue Marvel in the future at some point. In the comics, he has powers such as super strength, invulnerability, flight, and energy manipulation. And he has a few traits that make him unique. He can absorb antimatter, he can create force fields. So he's a very powerful character that will end up coming into the MCU at some point. And Nate Moore seems very excited about all of these characters. So I have faith in him, I have faith in Kevin Feige. Always have faith in Kevin Feige. He knows what he's doing. And yeah, so that's all Nate Moore had to say about Eros, about Bishop and Storm, and then with Blue Marvel. And yeah, so that's today's episode on the THWIPcast about Nate Moore's comments on certain Marvel characters and their future in the MCU. Make sure to check out the other episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also check out the video versions on YouTube if you don't have access to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, on the THWIP Media YouTube channel. And yeah, stay tuned. I'll be retweeting news on Twitter. I'll be posting updates on Twitter. And I've got some pretty cool ideas that I'm planning out for future content and maybe some guests that I might have on here. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that goes, and I'll always let you guys know what's going on. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're watching this on YouTube. And yeah, have a great day. Thanks for listening. See you next time.